We ready with Darren Rovell? Darren joining us. We saw a headline in the New York Daily News. The Yankees could be up for sale soon as rumors swirl in baseball and banking circles, according to sources. You heard the rumors there, Darren, so what do you think of these?
It's totally not true. I mean, there's nothing going on. Now, maybe the banking sources could be, over the last year, there have been minority partners who have sold small pieces. And when I say small, I mean 1-2%. But the big at-large piece with Hal Steinbrenner and the Steinbrenners, they're not selling. In fact, as Richard Sandomir of the New York Times reported on his Twitter feed, they've set up all these trusts already, so it's not like they have to sell because of estate planning. In fact, if they sold, they'd pay such high taxes that it makes it cost prohibitive for them to sell. So this story just doesn't have any validity.
This is what I heard, that the Yes Network is in play.
Well, that's possible. That's possible. Now, the story talks about the fact that because the Dodgers were valued at $2 billion, then the Yankees are looking better. But really, the prize is the networks. As we've found out by the Mets, when the Mets said that SNY was not in play, they couldn't really get an owner. They couldn't get anyone to even give a substantive piece. They raised 7 minority shares of $20 million, and 6 they sold to themselves. So Yes is worth $2-3 billion by itself, and if that were in play, that could be accurate, though I don't think that's the case either.
Yeah, from what I heard, this is 4 weeks ago, that investment companies were looking at the Yes Network. So.
No, it's a good business. Look, cable TV right now is really in the driver's seat, especially sports, where things are un-TiVoable. I mean, ESPN's president John Skipper said yesterday that 99.4% of ESPN's programming is watched live. I mean, think about that versus what my wife watches, which is 100% taped.
Darren Rovell from CNBC Sports Business Reporter. What's the financial impact of the Belmont Stakes with All Have Another going for the Triple Crown?
Well, you have tickets. So tickets are going to go from a couple years ago, you might remember we had no Kentucky Derby winner and no Preakness winner at the Belmont, which is the worst possible, buzzkill, obviously. But tickets probably go from about 55,000 to they'll be over 100,000 next Saturday. And the tickets sold out in about 3 minutes when they put them on sale on Monday morning. So it's like nothing or everything. And unfortunately, they got rid of the $5 million bonus that Visa used to give if a Triple Crown was done. But, there's only one way that this helps horse racing, and that is if I'll Have Another wins and then races for 2 more years. It is actually cost prohibitive for that horse to be on the track next Saturday. They cannot possibly insure that horse for the money that horse is worth. But if you do like Secretariat and you say, and the owner says, I care about the state of the game, about the state of racing, and I want to, no matter what the money is for breeding, I want to make sure that horse racing is in good shape, put them out there for a couple more years. That could help horse racing.
What about a horse racing league?
That would be interesting, but how long? Where'd you get that from? I mean, I think it'd be interesting, but it depends on how long horses can go for, and I think they get hurt so often, and But I've never heard that before, so it's interesting.
Well, here's the thing: you make it a reality show.
Yeah, people root for a particular horse constantly.
But you're rooting for an owner, a jockey. There's a story behind every horse. So what you do is you make it a reality show, and the payoff with the reality show is you get into the Kentucky Derby.
That's good. I think that's a good idea. Listen, reality shows are very successful, and horse racing needs a push. They need something because the track with the betting away from the track. I mean, you just look at Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs now generates more revenue from their gambling business and slots than horse racing ticket sales, which just shows you everything you need to know about the sport.
Well, before I let you go, we always do this when we look at matchups, whether it's Stanley Cup final. If it's L.A. and New York, then it'll be a ratings blockbuster, but maybe not so if it's the Devils in there against the Kings. If we look at the NBA, best case, worst case scenario of who's going to watch, who's going to care, what would you?
Miami and Oklahoma City is probably the best case scenario now. And then worst case scenario is probably Pacers Spurs.
What is it about the Spurs that doesn't resonate with people?
It's interesting, and I have Peter Holt on my show tomorrow. The owner of the Spurs. It just seems like they've been labeled as boring. And I think it starts with Tim Duncan, but like Manu Ginobili isn't boring, or Tony Parker isn't boring. I just think that they don't say anything meaty, and there's not a lot of drama.
But is that what we've reduced this to?
No. I you're right.
I mean, this is how shallow we are as sports fans. There's no buzz here. They don't say anything stupid. There's no controversy.
I think that's the product of the society we live in. We look for that type of stuff. But is it accurate? The question is the label that we've given them accurate? And I'm not really that sure. But people will tune out, or the casual fan who would not be interested anyway is not going to be interested because they've been labeled as, Sherwin-Williams should sponsor them because they're good as watching paint dry. Okay.
What if the Spurs played in New York, or they were the Clippers if they played in Los Angeles as the other team?
There'd be no chance that they'd be as, quote-unquote, boring.
Yeah, I just think it's where they play. They're not in you have to go out of your way to get there, to cover them. And you add the other things that, maybe, I don't know, top to bottom. I think that they should be praised, not buried. But it seems like every time you bring up the Spurs, people go, oh, God, boring. Everything that they do it correctly. And you should say
that when's the last time you watched them? And they'll tell you, I haven't watched them in years. Haven't watched the Nets Spurs final.
Good to visit with you as always, Darren. Thanks for joining us.
Dan.
All right. He has a show on NBC Sports Network, by the way, and covers sports business. CNBC Fridays at 7, I believe, on NBC Sports Network, 7 Eastern, called Game On.